Hello and welcome to the SANS Institute's Wait Just an Infosec live broadcast. We're tuning in live from our booth at SANS RSAC Conference 2023. My name is Stephen A. Hart. I'm the Director of Content Marketing for SANS. I'm extremely pleased to be here. Thank you so much for everyone tuning in. We are having conversations with 15 SANS experts throughout the course of this week from the show. Today, we are having conversations with James Tarala, Jorge Orchilles, Katie Nichols, Eric Johnson, Dr. Johannes Ullrich, and Robert M. Lee. So don't go anywhere. You don't want to miss all the amazing conversations happening today. We are broadcasting live across our SANS channels on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Twitter. And if you're joining us for the first time, we invite you to join our community over at sans.org/join. At sans.org/join. Now, I just want to go ahead and start today off by introducing our first of 6 guests. We have James Tarala joining us today. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me today.
How you doing?
I'm doing really great.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about what you do for SANS and Enclave.
So I've had the opportunity of being here at SANS for a little over 20 years now. So I've been a senior instructor for most of that time, teaching things, anything from pen testing, hacking, management, leadership, cybersecurity standards, and had the opportunity to work on a number of the standard setting projects that SANS has been a part of over the years. Most notably the critical security controls that's now managed by the Center for Net Security. I've had a chance to work on that project since about 2008 and having a chance to teach that in the classroom. And then also talk about some of the new risk management standards and similar frameworks that SANS is putting out here over the next couple of years.
I love it. I know you're going to be presenting about this topic this week, but wanted to pick your brain a bit about cyber hygiene. Can you tell us a little bit from a high level, what cyber hygiene is?
Absolutely. So I had the opportunity, I was sitting in Dubai a few years back, maybe about 10 years ago, with a lady by the name of Jane Liu. Jane used to be the CEO for Center for Net Security, and we were having this exact conversation. And we were talking about what does it mean to really do cyber hygiene? And her comment to me was, she said, listen, James, I'm not in cybersecurity. I'm not an engineer. I might have been signals back in the day, but she said, I don't really know what this means. What is it? And she said, when I go to my dentist tells me there's certain things that I need to do. And if I do these things, I can hopefully not lose my teeth when I get old, right? So I can brush my teeth, I can floss, right? And she said, you don't have to do 10 things. You don't have to do 20 things to keep your teeth, but there are certain steps that need to be done if you want to make sure you don't lose your teeth when you're old. And she said, what are the equivalents that we need to do on the cyber community? What do we need to do to make sure that that's happening from our side of things? Those basic eat your vegetables controls that frankly actually make a difference. And some of the better projects, the research projects we've been involved with, have actually been to look at actual incidents that are happening and do root cause analysis on those incidents, and then be able to turn that into a better understanding of what are the things that would have made a difference in advance. So rather than waiting until after the fact, now we know, hey, these things actually would have stopped it in advance. And we've seen some really good case studies out there of saying it's not 100 things. It might be 5 things, 10 things. And if we do these things well and consistently, proactively, we can actually stop some of these attacks.
Right. I love it. So, James, we have quite a number of people tuning in from across the globe. I'm seeing folks from Germany, Arizona, Switzerland, North Carolina, Maryland, Dubai, South Africa, United Kingdom, Oregon, Zurich, Switzerland. Hello to everyone joining us around the globe. Continue to say hello in the comments. Let us know where you're tuning in from. Drop your country flag in the chat. And drop any questions that you might have there. I wanted to get the engagement of our audience in a poll for just a minute. We had a poll here where we wanted you to share, what you think is most important to ensuring good cyber hygiene. So if you could jump over to slido.com and input that code, or you can scan the QR code that's on the screen right now and take part in the poll. We'd love to see what you're thinking on this question that we have up for you.
That's absolutely great.
So we'll give that a minute. There's a little bit of latency between this going live out to our audience, but while that's the results are coming in here, what are the kinds of best practices that folks need to consider, James, when we're talking about improving cyber hygiene?
So I feel like over the years, there's this common wisdom, right? If you look in the news or you go to any of these general standards that are out there, people will say, buy a firewall, buy antivirus, right? Patch your machines, right? These really simple things. And I feel like for a long time, that's been our focus. One of the better articles I've read, sort of case studies in this, was from Brian Krebs. And so Brian actually did an analysis of the Conti crimeware family. And what they were doing is they were really trying to do mostly ransomware, but then other kinds of attacks to organizations, especially in the West. And one of the things that they were doing, for instance, over and over again, was they were trying to figure out on a daily basis, part of their operations was, how do we make sure that the malware that we're putting in place isn't getting caught by the traditional EDR vendors? Yeah. And so traditionally, we've always said to ourselves, all right, we need to do antivirus, anti-malware. And we said, you know what, this is great, this works, this is hygiene. But yet we know specifically that the crimeware families are taking operational steps to make sure that their malware works, even if you have those things in place. So our thought has been to try to understand what are the things, though, that make a difference in light of the fact that those attacks are actually taking place the way that they take place. And so there's been some really good standards out there. The U.S. National Security Agency, GCHQ, of course, in the UK. The Australian government has put out some really good studies. In fact, some of my favorite studies come out of Australia right now, looking at what are those top things we can do. And traditionally, you're seeing the same things. You're seeing application control. You're seeing patching third-party applications. We're seeing multi-factor authentication. And some of these standard issues more and more are coming to the top of the list. And they're not always easy things. Sometimes these are the hard things, but we know they work. Yeah.
Brett, I wanted to come back to that, the results of that poll for a second and just share that with James and get your input. We're getting some results back. Quite a number of people are highlighting multi-factor authentication for your business apps.
I really love that. I'm actually really excited that people have put MFA on so high on that list, because I feel like it's one of those things that we talk about a lot. It's, again, that we should do, but again, we don't always do. And I feel like most of these talks, these presentations I'm getting, frankly, I feel like I'm telling people eat your vegetables, and it's something you should do, but nobody wants to do. Yeah. But with that one in particular, it's the one that I would really call out on that is almost every company that I work with has almost the same response to this. Is if you go to their CEOs or the executive team and say, okay, are you doing MFA? The answer is pretty much always yes. Like, we're doing MFA. But what does that actually mean? And what they think in their mind is, all right, once a day or a couple times a day, I have to pull out my phone and I'm clicking a little app or an approve or an allow or whatever on that phone. So clearly we're using MFA because it's there. Like, I'm doing it every single day. But the question is, where are we doing it? So if we have, let's say, 75 SaaS apps, are we using MFA on 20 of them? If we have 20 on-prem applications, have we enabled it for on-prem applications? Are we using things like SAML or single sign-on to integrate those things together to make it easier for our end users? So I love the fact that they're bringing up on the poll that MFA is such a big deal. The thing I would just encourage people to do is, again, it's that hygiene concept. Let's do it everywhere. Let's not just do it once or twice.
Yeah, that's awesome. So is cyber hygiene something that people should be thinking about consistently, or is it enough to do a deep clean, so to speak, perhaps once or twice a year?
So that's a great question. So it's one of those areas where I'm a huge fan of program management, of project management in general. And some of the resources groups like the Project Management Institute put out, just whether you're planning a wedding or you're building a house or you're building a cybersecurity program, to me, it's a lot of the same concepts at the end of the day. There's certain program management ideas that have to be a part of it. And I think if I could give the analogy for hygiene, you can eat your vegetables, but you've got to do it consistently. You can exercise, but you've got to do it 3 days a week. Yeah. And if you want to do like a really hard workout, maybe once a month, that's great. And it's probably not horrible. But at the end of the day, it's really not going to give you any gains unless you're doing something like that consistently.
That's a great analogy. I love that. So you're delivering a talk here. Tell us a little bit about what you're going to be talking about. I know the talk is leaning to cyber hygiene. When is it?
So the talk at RSA is today. So if you're talking Pacific time, it's 1:15. So we're going to be in Moscow and West. And so hopefully I should have a great crowd up there today.
So if you're here at the show or you're tuning in live and you have the ability to be available for James's talk, make sure you do so. And if not, we're going to make sure that we have the link to your talk in the comments.
That'd be amazing.
On our YouTube channel. I have a couple more questions for you. When somebody's evaluating their cyber hygiene, are there factors that are often overlooked that people should be paying close attention to?
I feel like there definitely probably are topics that we don't spend enough time with. And I always want to be careful because you come to a place like RSA and it's really easy to get into buzzwords. It's really easy to get sort of bogged down with, you're going to look around the hallway here and you're going to see AI everywhere and you're going to see zero trust everywhere, which is important, right? These are things we need to be talking about, and innovation is amazing. We need to be doing innovation for sure. But I feel like there's definitely things that we could focus on. And I'll give you a couple specifics. So my talk today is actually going to be talking about what are those things in 2023 that should be our bigger priority, more than just traditional wisdom, common wisdom that we always talk about. And so some of the things that I would definitely be looking at there, we talk about MFA that the poll had, which I think is amazing. There are some buzzwords that, as buzzwordy as they may be, still have a lot of value. And
absolutely,
what we're talking about, things like network segmentation, actually doing that, looking as people are moving remote right now, for instance, and moving away from offices, turning offices into internet service providers. And maybe we do things like we say, all right, we're going to segment our workstation population, our wireless population from, say, our server data centers or cloud service providers. And then even better yet, turning on VLAN privatization on those campus networks. So there's things like that I think we can really focus on that are maybe a little technical in nature, but they make a difference. They actually stop attacks. So for example, if we turn on privatization, let's say, and with VLAN segmentation, all of a sudden an attacker takes over one machine via phishing or, say, web drive-by, whatever it might be. And then they try to do lateral movement and they try to do credential theft from neighboring machines. Well, if you can't ping a machine, it's hard to do credential theft off a machine you can't reach. So there's things like that we just know work, even if it might be a little bit harder. But the talk today is trying to get people to think about what are those things this year that might be just a little bit different that maybe I couldn't have done in the past, and make that a bit of our focus.
Yeah. So cyber hygiene feels like something relevant to individuals, but are there steps, right, that businesses should be taking to ensure that their staff are practicing good cyber hygiene?
Well, I guess I would like to take it both ways. I think we, especially at a place like RSA, like we always want to talk about businesses, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's a lot of organizations that need help, a lot of folks here that could use the time and attention. I think I'd probably I'd answer the question both ways. I think if we're talking to our parents about what they need to do for their computers, or we're talking to our family members, or even just ourselves, I feel like there are things individuals should be doing. And there are things that we can encourage. Like we bring up MFA on the poll. I think, again, that's great for individuals. Sometimes we have to make a choice to use MFA. And sometimes it's easy not to do it, and we choose not to. But we still should. We should take the time to, when that little red number pops up on our phone and it says install updates, let's take the time to do it. Let's make sure that we actually do those updates and reboot the phone. Or I know my computer this morning, if I'm honest, told me I had an iOS update that needed to be done. And, we need to take the time to do those things. And
absolutely.
If we're people, if we're individuals, let's do the things that we know we need to do. But I would say when you're talking about companies too, there's definitely a corporate perspective on this.
So how do those organizations monitor efforts to boost that employee cyber hygiene?
Well, I think you've got to figure out, first of all, what it is. I think that's step one is, have you made a decision of what cyber hygiene actually looks like? What are those priorities that we need to focus on? A lot of the standards are starting to talk more and more about hygiene. So again, the UK standards, the NSA, Center for Net Security, some of the SANS documents, we have, I think we're to the point where we know what those are, but we do have to make the decision that we're going to do that. I would say in the old days, Tony Sager used to make this comment that when cybersecurity first started, we were really just hiring wizards. And you'd pick a wizard and you'd get your wizard to do the best that you could do. And hopefully that wizard was better than all the bad wizards who are around you. But the problem in the industry is that there's only so many wizards that you can get a hold of, right? We're beyond that phase now. And I feel like we're to the point now where we could take a breath and understand that this is more data analytics now. It's a science, not an art. Like, I know a lot of people still want it to be an art, but we're not there anymore. It really is a science. And if we've decided that these are the things that make a difference, let's make a plan to achieve those. Let's prioritize those. Again, the programmatic approach, again, it may not be sexy, but what are the things that we know actually make a difference? Those 5 things, those 10 things, and let's track against those. And let's tell the board of directors, these are the 10 things we're going to be doing. I love things like, say, phishing results. And I mean, we all love phishing tests and we love seeing the results of phishing tests, and executives love seeing those numbers. But what are you going to do as an executive if you find out that 20% or 15% of your population is failing phishing tests? You can say, go do more education, which is amazing. We should be doing more education. It's absolutely what we should be doing. But does that really drive behavior, right? We measure things to make better decisions. So hopefully as we're tracking these things that we know are right, then leadership can say, okay, we see areas that need more resources, where we need more attention. and we can work away eating that elephant one bite at a time.
Yeah. Seeing a couple comments here coming through the feed. There's a LinkedIn user that says, what can someone do in advance to protect their personal data in case their phone is stolen or lost? All right.
Well, I mean, we can take those questions too. I mean, if somebody has a situation where you have a stolen phone, I mean, there's certain things, right? And we'll take any questions that come in. But in that case, we've got certainly backups, right? Making sure you're using iCloud, making sure that you've got your backups enabled,
Yes.
Making sure that you're protecting those, making sure you're using authentication on those, making sure you're using multi-factor on those, right? All those things we've been talking about today. A lot of it's the standard answer.
So let me ask you, we touched on AI. That's a big buzzword, I'm sure, that you're going to hear throughout the show
Absolutely.
this year, right? Are there any other, things that stood out to you so far as you're walking the floor? I know the show just really kind of kicked off today.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you're kind of taking notice of since you've been here?
Yeah, you know what there is? There's one big trend I've noticed as I've walked around that actually sort of warms my heart, if I'm being perfectly honest, is I've seen probably more vendors talking about API security, more vendors talking about code review, just software development practices in general. It's not that they haven't been here in the past. I mean, probably the last 5 years, we've seen API security companies here at RSA, but seeing so many of them just taking an awareness and an interest in really the development side of things.
Right.
It's been such an area of loss, or an area that we've been neglecting, frankly, for the last few years. It's really good to see some attention started to be focused on it.
That's interesting. We'll see what else other people have to share. Beyond your talk today, and remind me of the time one more.
So we're talking 1:15 in Moscow and West for those of you that are here on site. But again, 1:15 here at RSA Pacific time.
Good stuff. Beyond your talk, what else are you looking forward to getting into while you're here at RSAC?
So there's definitely a couple presentations, and I'm always on the lookout for who's here, who's talking. There's some great talks I know tomorrow that are going to be taking place. Some of the government agencies, at least in the U.S., are going to be here, giving their perspectives. Some folks from CISA and Homeland Security and others, really just talking about what their view on things are. Rob Joyce's tomorrow, I know, is already sold out. For those of you who are trying to get in, it's probably too late. But again, that's going to be a great one from the NSA's perspective. But the one I'm really looking forward to, if I'm being honest, is the one tomorrow afternoon. The SANS presentation. I believe it's 4 p.m. Is that right?
It's at 3:55.
3:55.
5 most dangerous new attack techniques.
That's the one. I've been to that talk for a million years. I feel like I've been here at RSA probably 15 years in a row or something like that. But I feel like every year we do that talk, probably one of the better talks. Love hearing what everybody has to say that time.
Yes, I'm excited about that lineup for sure. James, thank you so much. It's great getting a chance to sit and chat with you for a little bit.
Absolutely.
Good luck on your talk today.
Well, thank you, Steve. And I appreciate you having me here on the show.
So listen, we are not done. We are just kicking things off. And we actually wanted to do something different right here. I'm going to give you an opportunity to take part in a giveaway. We're giving away some SANS merch. So if you want to go ahead and type hashtag SANS livestream in the chat right now for your chance to win a gift card to our sansgear.com store. Go ahead and type hashtag SANS live in the chat right now. And we'll be doing a giveaway here in a few short minutes. We'll be beginning our second conversation here in just a few minutes with Jorge Orchilles. So don't go anywhere. Hang tight. We'll start that conversation right at the top of the hour. Thank you.
These are the people that I look to, and so many of us look to give us insights on what to expect next, what we should focus on in keeping cyberspace secure.
Like Ed said, when we know something, we want to share it with you. So that's what we're here to do.
I'm going to talk to you about 2 different new attack techniques that I think everyone needs to be paying attention to. Let's dive right in here.
The first attack, and it's really difficult to figure out which attacks are the most compelling or the most dangerous. But I've been tracking them very closely, as I always do.
What excites me always about security is how things change, and we're doing these panels now in one form or another. for about the last 10 years. Now, each year there's something new, something exciting really here to talk about.
Hello and welcome back. I am Stephen A. Hart. I'm the Director of Content Marketing here at SANS Institute. We are live on the floor at RSAC 2023. We are doing live streams all week long directly from our booth 4416. If you're here at the show, please come over and say hi and hang out with us. We actually just finished wrapping a segment with James Tarala, and we had a giveaway right at the end of our first segment. I'm gonna put up an overlay card here. If you want to go ahead and type SANS live stream in the chat right now, we are giving away a $40 gift card to our sansgear.com store. Brett, if you want to go ahead and put up that giveaway screen. And I'm going to give this about another 10 seconds to do a quick drawing before we move into our next segment. So if you want to go ahead and be added to that entry, go ahead and type that hashtag in the comment field right now. So I'm just going to go ahead and do this. We're going to be giving away prizes throughout our broadcast today. But for our first giveaway, we have Cornelius Smith. You want a $40 gift card to our SANS Gear store. Go ahead and connect with us over at contentmarketing@sans.com, and we'll make sure to get you your gift card. So listen, I will not waste any more time. Our second guest in the booth with me right now is Jorge Orchilles. He's a SANS principal instructor, author of SEC 565, Red Team Operations and Adversary Emulation. George, welcome, man.
Hey, thank you for having me. And oh my gosh, this is amazing. Look at that crowd we got here at RSA.
Yes.
Love everyone's smile. Thank you for having me on.
And we have several hundred people watching us live across
Hello,
LinkedIn,
everyone.
YouTube, and Twitter.
That is awesome. Hello, everyone on the interwebs.
How you doing?
Doing awesome.
How you liking RSAC 2023 so far?
It's my first RSA in person.
Is it?
Yeah. So far, so good. I haven't walked all of this expo yet, but I plan to. And of course, I did come say hi to all my SANS friends and family that I haven't seen in so many years. So that just, makes me happy. It makes me happy seeing everyone here and just catching up.
So before we even get into our talk today, there's a poll that I wanted to dive right into. It's our first poll with you today. And I'm going to share, you can see kind of what we're going to ask some questions here. Have you used a C2 framework? Which one? I want our audience tuning in to hop on over to slido.com. You can input that code or scan the QR code right now to share your thoughts on this poll. But you've long been a C2 expert at SANS, delivering lots of great content over the years about command and control attacks and how infosec pros can defend against them. What's one or two things, George, that cybersecurity professionals need to understand about C2 matrix and command and control attacks?
Yeah, so I actually just finished the workshop. Got sold out like a week ago, which was super cool. Also, I didn't know who was going to attend. Ended up being mostly defenders, like you said, right? That many of them have never actually used a C2 framework before. And these C2 frameworks, right, command and control, is something we see in pretty much every attack. Unless the attack is a worm, like your WannaCry and your NotPetya, which we haven't seen in years, there's some sort of command and control. So getting folks to actually use them and see what happens under the hood was very valuable. As seeing everyone's eyes light up the first time they get a call back, and now they're using the C2 channel to run things on the target systems that they just compromised was awesome, right? So really understanding that there's a ton of these C2 frameworks out there. Most of them are free, and there are threat actors, unfortunately, using them in real attacks. So we need to know how they function, and that was really one of the main goals behind the C2 matrix, was getting, making it accessible for folks to look. This is out there. It's free.
Yeah.
You should try. You should test it. You should see how it works. And then today we released a new version, just today, literally today, of the SANS Slingshot C2 Matrix Edition virtual machine. We put it up today, just released, and that has, I think, 10 different C2s pre-installed, so you can head over to sans.org/slingshot and download that right now, get you up and running, playing with those C2s, because like I said, they're out there, they're being used against us. We might as well learn how to use them and learn how they function, right?
Yeah, and so that brought me to, wanting to know how does your expertise in C2, attacks come into play in the SANS course that you offered?
Oh, so the C2 Matrix actually started because of the SANS course. So
nice.
Back in 2019, I was putting the finishing touches on Security 564. That was the 2-day that has now evolved into 565. Yeah.
Wow.
And I was using Empire, PowerShell Empire. Many of you may have heard of it. Very, very popular C2. And it was reliable, right? In the SANS training, right? We have very high standard of what we use in the class. We want to make sure that it's reliable, it's consistent, make sure that the students aren't banging their head because, they're doing exactly what we're telling them to do, but then we're getting different results. So we went with Empire because it is one of the most consistent ones. I'm turning it in, and the original developers of Empire go on Twitter and they're like, we are not going to develop this anymore. So I'm like, oh no. And, it was okay. It's okay. You have about a year before you put something, because then students are like, hey, this isn't developed. This isn't new and cool. Well, then I started asking around. I had Ed Scotus, I remember, on the SANS Instructor Slack, Jeff McJunkin, Tim Medine, right? All these awesome instructors. Hey, what free C2 are you using? One person said Sliver, one person said Covenant, another person said Merlin. I'm like, whoa, what are all these? And that's how the C2 Matrix started. Opened up Excel, started documenting them, and today we have 126 C2s that we're tracking there.
Really?
So yeah, fast forward, that's how C2 Matrix started, and then it's just grown mostly between community feedback, right? It's there, it's a resource for everyone, it's free. Obviously, we try to give you value, but we also want to hear what you want, where we can help you, right? And then yes, of course, we use a number of these C2s on Sec 565, for example. We use both Empire, which is the most popular free one, and we're also using Cobalt Strike, which everyone has heard of, but there's not many classes that actually use it. So our SANS Sec 565 has Cobalt Strike now. We ran it last week, and the feedback and evals have been amazing. Everyone's loving it because, threat actors are using this. We need to know how they work, and you all should learn how they work as well.
Absolutely. So if you're tuning in, if you have any questions for George, feel free to drop them in the chat. Let us know what you're enjoying, what you're thinking of, what you'd love him to answer while we're having this dialogue. There's another poll that we'll throw up right now asking you, what adversary scares you the most? So feel free, if you're still in the app, engage with that while we're talking. Let us know your thoughts. And I'll leave that up so you can kind of see the responses as they're coming through. But speaking of Sec 565, George, can you tell us a little bit about what adversary emulation means and why it's important when we're talking about enterprise information security?
Yeah, for sure. It's another one of my favorite topics. You're going to see I have a lot of favorite topics, mostly all in offensive security. But adversary emulation is one of those really high value ones, right? Because you may, do a red team engagement, but they're kind of trying whoever you hire is doing what they know how to do. Right. In adversary emulation, we're leveraging cyber threat intelligence. We're understanding the adversary that's likely to target that organization, and we're going to emulate those behaviors. So you're not just defending against any attack, you're going to defend against attacks that are most likely to target your organization. So from a receiving perspective, right, if I'm a CISO, I want to know how I'm going to defend and how well I'm going to do against an attack that's likely to target me over just some random attack, right? I'm not saying not to do all of them, but adversary emulation is just a good way to bring that value early on, because offensive operations is all about bringing business value. If you're just going in and getting domain admin and giving yourself high five and you're not actually improving the target organization, then you're not really bringing value, and you need to reevaluate that.
Yeah. Seeing APTs pop up.
Yep. APTs are very common. Now we have some malware attacks, social engineering attacks. No one puts supply chain attacks. Saw a couple of those in the last few months. But yeah, you really your organization needs to be prepared for all of these. The question is, which one do you target first? Which one do you go after first? Ransomware, of course, is one that comes to mind because everyone's getting hit by ransomware. So
Yes.
that might be a good place to start as well. But every organization is different, you know?
So there's a question coming up in a chat from Jessica Chambers. She says, I'd love to hear your insight on how to combat identity fraud when it comes to AI.
Ooh, great question. Yeah, I've gotten a number of questions around AI, really a lot around generative AI, right? The chat bots, the chat GPTs, the Bards, the Bings, right? All these new ones coming out and how we're going to leverage them in security. For identity fraud, it's a little harder. That's really not my area of expertise. I'm more focused on the offensive side, as you know. So we did do a webcast, though, in December. It's available on SANS.org. I did it more focused on the offensive side, of course, and how to do it. Regardless of offense or defense, we still need a set of eyes, right? We're not going to be able to automate and replace humans, especially in cybersecurity. We still need that set of eyes to make sure that whatever's coming back from the AI is indeed correct, because there is a percentage that it's probably not. But you also need to know what to ask and how to use it, right? If you're completely new to this and you're asking stuff, you don't really know if it's true or not, it makes it harder. But I do see it as one of those revolutionary technologies that I compare to like when the search engine came out, right? It was amazing that you could just type something and find results, right? I know that sounds like I'm dating myself a bit, but it was amazing, and I think that's what's going to happen with AI here. A great question.
George, what's Atomic Red Team and how does that intersect with MITRE ATT&CK Matrix?
Yes. So Atomic Red Team is it's a free project by the folks at Red Canary, and it allows you to emulate certain attacks that map to MITRE ATT&CK. So they are atomic, as the name suggests. That means it's one attack, right? You're not doing an adversary emulation. You're not chaining them together. You're doing one at a time. So, for instance, later today, I'm going to talk about purple is the new red, very controversial topic, over at the Sandbox. And I'm going to talk at 1:15, I think. Oh, you put me on the spot. I don't know. My calendar will remind me when I have to run over there. I think it's 1:15. So Atomic Red Team, essentially you want to emulate a particular TTP. And speaking of Red Canary, look at Katie Nichols over there. So, Atomic Red Team will let you do one particular test. So one of the ones I'm going to talk about that adversaries are using lately is packaging malware inside of ISO files. They're image files. They get you around Mark of the Web. So you can go into Atomic Red Team, look up that TTP. I'm not going to try to quote it. I think it's 1355. But don't quote me on that. Look it up on MITRE ATT&CK. I shouldn't really memorize MITRE ATT&CK techniques, right? But you go in there and it tells you exactly how to do it. And sometimes it tells you how to do a variety of different ways using command prompt, PowerShell. Now there's some cloud stuff. But it's an awesome project. It's definitely a place to get started. If you've never done any sort of emulation in your organization, Atomic Red Team is free. So you can go and start testing now, of course, with permission, work together with your cybersecurity folks, and then you can get started very quickly with that. It's an awesome project. I'm a contributor to it, so I'm a little biased, but love those folks. And shout out to Red Canary and all the folks there supporting that project.
As a red team, is Atomic Red Team something you use on a daily basis? And if so, how so?
No, so see, as a red teamer, you're probably not going to use Atomic Red Team. Atomic Red Team is more for, say, a purple team exercise where you're collaborating with a blue team, or a blue teamer that might not have that knowledge of and time to do a full red team engagement.
Right.
You can just grab these little atomic tests and execute them on your system or on a virtual machine or somewhere. It's really like the getting started, like the walk, the crawl before you walk, and then you run. You know what I mean?
Got it. You guys ready for another poll? I think we have another poll set up here for those tuning in. Have you participated in a hands-on purple team exercise at your organization? Yes or no? Let us know your thoughts. So while people are engaging with that poll, George, let me ask you, if Sec 565 and the topics we've discussed so far fall in the category of red team, what do you add to the mix to get to purple team tactics and
My other favorite topic. Go purple. So purple team came from the collaboration between red and blue. So of course you need a little bit of red to make purple, a little bit of blue, collaborate. And this all came back. Remember I said earlier about bringing value to the business. Doing red team engagements, of course, bring some value. Purple teaming is kind of what you can do in between those stealth red team engagements. You collaborate with the blue team. You leverage cyber threat intelligence. And I mentioned an ISO file, right? We've seen threat actors lately using these. So instead of waiting for the next red team engagement to do that, we can bring in everyone together, bring them to the table, say, look, this is a new way that threat actors are using. They're using ISO files. Do you think we can download ISO files from the internet? What if someone emails an ISO file? Do we have any detective or preventive controls there? What if someone opens an ISO file? What if someone runs something from within an ISO file, right? All those questions, you can tabletop them and then have the red team go and emulate it. They can use something like Atomic Red Team. Again, if it's just a getting started, you're running just an atomic test. And then when you run it, the blue team's learning, oh, that's one way of doing that. That's cool. I hadn't seen that, right? And then they go and they show the red team, look, we were able to detect this in our proxy. You were downloading an ISO file, so we can build a detection. Maybe we can block it. And you work together like that collaboratively. So purple teaming is really a function where we're all working together. And that's the theme of RSA this year, right? Stronger together. Yes. Right. So purple teaming is just one of those things. Today as well in the talk, we're going to release something else. The Purple Team Exercise Framework version 3.
You're dropping a lot of gems.
We're releasing today at that talk. Actually, for those on the live stream, you can find it right now because I'm not going to be on my computer between now and then. So it's actually already out. Special only for those watching the live stream. Yes. You can just Google Purple Team Exercise Framework. It's on a GitHub. It's up there now. Tell only your best friends, and then we'll release it officially at 1:30.
Let me ask you, how you got into this field, man? What drew you to Purple Team and Red Team? And
so I started breaking stuff as a little kid. My parents hated it, taking things apart. And back then, I played video games. Probably some I shouldn't play at my age. I remember maybe around 12, I was playing Grand Theft Auto. But this is like the old school one, the 2D one, right? And I played on the computer. I was all about stealing the cars, making them go faster, and then blowing them up with a Molotov cocktail. And I found that if you edited this one file, you can make the cars go faster and the explosions bigger. So I started just tinkering like that. Then I wanted to overclock my computer so the video games would look better. So started overclocking hardware. And then little by little, I actually started trying to make some money in high school by removing malware from people's houses, right? We talked about South Florida and all that. This was, early 2000s. So started doing that and then got a job at Terramark in the Security Operations Center. So I was actually a blue teamer first. I did my time. I recall working 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. right across the street from Space. I would leave and people would be like going into a club. And I'm like, wow, this is a lot of work. And then through networking, actually, someone came up and they're like, hey, Citi's hiring ethical hackers. I'm like, ethical what? Ethical hackers? You mean a bank is going to pay me to hack into them? No way. And that's where I got started. I worked there for 10 years, started as vulnerability assessment analyst, then built the pen test team. The red team, it was one of the first red teams in the financial industry space. So lots of lessons learned. You can take Sec 565 to learn all about them and hear all the crazy stories of the things we did bad so you don't do them. And you bring value to your organization building that out. And then the purple team actually was also at Citi that we did a bunch of red team engagements and the blue team hated us. They're like, man, you're making us look bad. We haven't fixed that. You keep using it. And our chief information security officer said, hey, you all need to get along, send us to Black Hat. And then we realized, hey, we're all on the same team. We need to work together. Why don't we do a collaborative red team exercise? Purple team wasn't a word then. Right. And we started doing that. We started actually fixing things and detecting things way quicker. We were more efficient. And that's where it kind of took off. And now, been talking about it for a while. We have 2 purple team courses in SANS as well. We haven't talked about those.
Yes.
Sec 599 and 699. There's a beginner and advanced purple team
Purple
course
team
as well.
courses.
And then yeah, you need a little red to make a little red and blue together to make purple.
Make the
So,
purple.
yeah.
I love it, man. Well, one more time for the people who didn't hear us. What time is your talk today?
1:15 or 1:30
And it's in
at
the
the
sandbox.
Sandbox, 207,
Yes.
Moscone South 207. Actually, I think that's just above us. Awesome. I don't have to run
So-
across streets.
But for those of you who are at the show, make sure you check that out. If you're not, I believe you can go through the RSAC website and find that information. We'll make sure in the archive of this live broadcast, which will be on our YouTube page, we'll make sure we plant the link so those who missed it can go back and watch.
Awesome.
Listen, it's a pleasure. It's great to
Always a
have met you in
pleasure.
real life.
Yeah, right. Finally.
Right?
Finally.
Good luck
I'm
today.
saying that a lot today.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, thank you so much for having me on.
Anything else you're
Hello,
looking beyond your talk? Anything else you're looking forward to while you're here at the
I
show?
want to walk this expo and see what this is all about. I've never seen so many people together at one place outside of a music festival. So I want to check out anything new going on. I'm a fan of checking out like the new booths, like I think there's a section, I don't know the exact name. It's like the early stage booths where it's like new ideas coming out, new products and all
I was
that.
going to ask you
I
about
like
that.
those ideas, yeah.
So what's the buzzword that you're catching?
Oh, I haven't heard much today because I just got here, right? I did my workshop. There obviously lots of C2, lots of purple teaming. Hopefully it's purple teaming. I mean, the theme is stronger together.
Yes.
So hopefully purple teaming it continues to take off, but we'll see. I'll have to come back on after and find out.
All right. So listen, for those of you tuning in, I really enjoyed this conversation with George. I don't want you to go anywhere. In about 9 minutes, we're going to be having a conversation with one of my favorite people at SANS, Katie Nichols. She's going to be joining me right here for our conversation in just a few minutes. So hang tight. We're going to run another giveaway, give away some more SANS gear. So stay tuned. Go grab a drink and come right back. Join us right here at 11:30 Pacific. Thank you. Hello and welcome back. Stephen Ahart here, Director of Content Marketing here at SANS Institute. We are live through today and all week long here at RSAC Conference 2023. The floor is jam-packed. You're seeing quite a number of people. I am so very excited to introduce our third guest today, a good friend of mine here at SANS, Katie Nichols, certified instructor, superstar herself. I'm gonna blow your say all the
I
things
want
that
you
you
to be
don't
my
want me to
hype
say.
man all the time. Just like follow me around, hype me up. How's it going?
Hello, Katie. How you doing?
So far, so good. It's a little chaotic, but this is the point in the week where like the energy you feed off of it,
Yes.
and then by Thursday we all just want to take a nap. So let's
Absolutely
ride it while
gonna
we
be.
can.
So listen, you're host of our monthly SANS threat analysis rundown. You are a superstar at Red Canary. You are a SANS certified instructor. Katie, when do you find time? I need to know where you're getting 25 hours in the day.
I mean, I think the key to doing it all is making sure you take time to rest.
Yes.
Right? Like people would be very bored with my normal weekend. I just binge watched Beef on Netflix. I like to take
sister
walks.
was visiting me this weekend watching Beef.
Right? It's really like if you don't take downtime, you're not going to be successful in any of this other stuff. So, you know, I find when you start doing too much, when you do too many conferences, like I'm going to go home after this week and just like sleep for a week, relax, pet my cat, hug my husband. So I think the key is really just saying yes to the things that make you really excited, like chatting with you. I'm like, I love Steven. I'm happy to chat here. Right? So be careful about the things you say yes to and just make sure that there are things that really energize you.
I love that you brought that up. And self-care is so important, especially in cyber. There's always good conversations about burnout.
Yeah.
You know, type in a chat right now. What is your favorite go-to self-care tactic? You know, share some tips in the comments on how you handle burnout. Mental health is so very important to me. It's something I speak to quite a bit. I'm happy you brought that up.
Yeah.
It's important that we take care of ourselves.
I have one for RSA in particular. So especially, I'm actually an introvert, right? I love you. I love people, but I get tired. So I always try to go back to my hotel room for at least an hour or two in the afternoon. Like it's usually like 4 or 5 o'clock before the evening stuff starts and just like be alone and be okay with that. And don't have FOMO, right? Because if you go all day, you're just exhausted and then you're not going to enjoy talking to people. And then what's the point if you're just standing here like zoning out? So I always try to do that at conferences.
I'm so very extroverted, but I have more and more, I feel like I get the introverted side of me starts to scream.
Yeah, even extroverts need rest time too, right?
But, you know, listen, you can tell that we're going to have a talk that doesn't go to script.
Yeah, no, I like Manuel's comment there, going outdoors for a hike. Yeah, I do walks all the time. That's a great one, being outside, like, especially if you have a busy day, back-to-back Zooms or streams, taking 10 minutes, just go outside. I love that one.
I love to go for long walks. I have 2 dogs, so they get me outside no matter what.
Nice.
But I find that, you know, I used to get terrible anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
And you get yourself out on a walk, touch a tree, you bring yourself right back to the present. And it removes the anxiety.
Petting animals, actually. My therapist said that actually releases endorphins. And so petting an animal, like that can be a great way to do a mental reset. So super important.
I love that. So listen, you're clearly passionate about a lot of things, but definitely cyber threat intelligence and infosec. So I thought it'd be a good place for us to maybe start our conversation, right? And I wanted to ask you, what is it that a cyber threat intelligence professional does in a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, it's fascinating because even though it's one field in infosec, like there are a lot of different activities that analysts can do. I mean, a lot of it is tracking threats, right? It sounds obvious, but trying to track what threat actors are, right? Targeting what companies, what tactics, techniques, and procedures are they using, right? Tracking malware, tracking changes in those. And then the real challenge, though, is disseminating that, right? Intel isn't just for Intel analysts.
Yeah.
Sometimes we
Making use of it.
Yeah, we're guilty of that. We write the reports on what we care about, but it's really about disseminating it. That's one of the fun things about cyber threat intel is it can be for so many different audiences. For incident responders, knowing, hey, there's a specific malware here that we know leads to ransomware. Like, that's important intelligence for them to have. At the strategic level, right? Hey, what's happening in this region of the world? Should a company expand there, right? If their employees are traveling there, what are the risks? So lots of different outputs. I think what's fun about it is that you never know what's going to happen. The cyber threats, like we don't get to choose our day to day. Whatever they're doing, that's where we go.
Yeah. So is research a big part of what you do?
Absolutely. And that's actually, kind of how I got into this. I originally wanted to go into journalism and it didn't really work out, couldn't find a job. And then my husband suggested Intel. And I think there's so many skill sets that are complementary between journalism or researchers. So if anyone, right, is a journalist or has that desire to like dig into things, do analysis, I think
might
CTI,
be their cup of tea.
It's a really fun field.
Looking for a pivot as a journalist.
Yep.
That's something to know about.
My friend Selena Larson used to be a journalist. She is an amazing analyst of her proof point.
So how do you interface with other parts of the InfoSec team?
Yeah, there's so many opportunities. On my team at Red Canary, for example, we do a lot of work with our detection engineers, right? So the people who are trying to write the analytics to find what adversaries are doing, well, they need to know what those adversaries are doing before they can write the analytics, right? So that's a natural one. I know George talked a lot about purple teaming, and I think I heard him mention Intel in there, right? If you have people doing purple teaming or red teaming, again, they want to try to mimic the actual threats that are affecting organizations. Who has that knowledge? It's the Intel team. So there's so many opportunities to support all kinds of security ops teams.
So tomorrow we have a pretty big talk coming up.
Yeah.
Are you excited?
I am very excited. Double keynote panels tomorrow. It's going to be a busy day.
Tell us more. Tell everyone watching.
I actually have them in front of me because it's hard to remember details.
Yeah, I have the keynote, the SANS keynote tomorrow at 3:55 p.m.
It's on a pack of gum.
It is.
Y'all, if you're here at RSA, can we like pick this up at the booth? This is also going to remind me where I need to be. You got
to come over to 4416. Booth 4416.
All right.
If you're here at RSA,
free gum.
Come get your pack of gum.
And then it'll remind you that
But it reminds me of your keynote.
Keynote panel, Moscone West, 3:55 p.m. tomorrow, Wednesday.
Yes.
That's not 4 p.m. You're going to miss the beginning, and I'm first out of the 5. So this panel, if you've never seen it, it's every year. Bunch of SANS instructors, we get together and we talk about the 5 most dangerous new attack techniques. Moderated this year by Ed Scotus. I'm going to be joined by awesome Heather Mahalik, Steve Sims, Johannes Ullrich. And we all get to choose the most dangerous techniques, talk about them, and then most importantly, talk about what organizations can do to try to defend and mitigate against them.
So I know you're not going to tell me all the details about
it's under lock and key. Yep.
But how much has the threat landscape changed from last year to this year?
It's interesting. I think that the landscape kind of shifts in slight ways. Right. One of the things that was actually a discarded technique I'm not going to talk about is how adversaries have kind of changed up the file types, the attachment types they've had to emails in response to, for example, Microsoft blocking macros by default in Office products. Yeah. Right. So adversaries were all in on macros, Excel files, and then Microsoft took that action. They changed to different container files like ISOs. I think I heard George talk about that as well. And so we see adversaries shifting a little bit. But I think what's really important, especially as this week, everyone's talking about AI, to remember that a lot of the fundamental techniques are still the same and still work to try to catch adversaries.
So again, tomorrow, 3:55 p.m.
3:55 p.m.
Moscone West, level 1. You don't want to miss that. Katie starts off, so you want to be on time.
Yes.
Not on Caribbean time.
If you're late, that's okay. It's recorded too. You can catch it later.
Absolutely. So tell us a little bit about what you do at the Atlantic Council.
Yeah, Atlantic Council, I'm a senior non-resident fellow. And it was cool. They reached out to me a couple years ago, especially after I'd done some work with the ransomware task force, public-private work. And, one of the challenges of being in cybersecurity is we can't always make the change we want to make, right? We can help organizations defend themselves, provide threat intel, but there's another component, and that's policymaking, right? People, national governments, international coalitions, and a lot of those people who are making those policies don't know day-to-day what security operations people do. And so they reached out to me and they were like, hey, do you want to chat with people who make policy sometimes, tell them what cybersecurity people do and see? And I was like, yeah, I can do that. So it's kind of fun. For example, we commented on the recent Biden security strategy. Just, hey, what's realistic about that from a practitioner standpoint? So it's just been fun to kind of try to expand influence and see, can we educate policymakers to make better decisions that help us, not just whack-a-mole against these adversaries day to day, but really try to have a larger effect.
Yeah. I'm still trying to figure out how you do all these things, Katie. That's amazing.
You just say no more than you say yes.
That
right?
too is true.
Say yes to the fun
prioritize.
things.
Yeah.
Fun things.
100%. What else are you looking forward to? Obviously, beyond the keynotes, what else are you hoping to get out of this week while you're here?
I think the big thing is just reconnecting with folks. There are certain people that I see only once a year, right, here at RSA, and just hearing what people are up to in the space. Just having different conversations with people who have different visibility than I do into this ecosystem.
Yeah.
Right, helps me understand, hey, from a cloud security perspective, what is someone who does a product there? What are they seeing for threats? And hoping to catch a couple talks. And I always just look for things that maybe are newer to me, ideas that I haven't heard before that might shift the way I think. So those are the big things I'm hoping to get out of it.
Nice. So tell everybody about the SANS threat analysis rundown. We kind of touched on it earlier,
Yeah.
but this is your one time every month where you jump on a live stream and
Yeah.
you drop a lot of gems.
It's been a lot
How
of
did
fun.
this come about?
Yeah, and credit to Steve and Brett, that team who kind of backs that up. It's really fun just hopping on every month and just talking about threats. Took this month off because of this week.
Yes.
A little much. This counts, right? But what I found is a lot of people don't do what threat intel analysts do day to day, which is just watch all this threat reporting. And so, right, the goal of that every month, right, I kind of just give a rundown of what are some of the reports that just came out. What should you be paying attention to? I also try to bring in different guests. I had Scott Roberts, who actually walked by here like 5 minutes ago, talk about a really cool tool called Synapse, open source tool. So I try to bring in different perspectives, different guests every once in a while to talk about what they're seeing from threats from different tools. So it's been a lot of fun. And yeah, we'll, should schedule that later in May once we get caught up from this week.
Absolutely. Let's see. I did not come back to the feed, but we have so many people tuned in across social.
We got chatter about beaches and dogs, and I like that. Let's all go to the beach. Just leave the expo floor right now.
Well, Katie, thank you so much. Appreciate you hopping on and chatting with us for a little bit today.
My
It's always
pleasure.
exciting to talk with you.
Likewise. Have a good rest of
I'm
your
excited
week.
to see your keynote tomorrow.
It's gonna be fun.
Make sure you're tuned in tomorrow. If you're here, come over to the booth for some gum. But also be aware of when our keynote is tomorrow with Katie. Listen, I wanted to do another giveaway real quick. If you want to take part, we're giving away a $40 gift card to our sansgear.com store.
Can I enter?
You absolutely can.
Join the live stream? No, I won't. I won't do that. That's me.
But go ahead and type in the hashtag SANS live stream to go ahead and enter that giveaway. We're going to do that. I'll give it a couple minutes and we'll come back to that. But go ahead and go ahead and enter and we'll do that giveaway in just a couple minutes.
These are the people that I look to, and so many of us look to give us insights on what to expect next, what we should focus on in keeping cyberspace secure.
Like Ed said, when we know something, we want to share it with you. So that's what we're here to do.
I'm going to talk to you about 2 different new attack techniques that I think everyone needs to be paying attention to. Let's dive right in here.
The first attack, and it's really difficult to figure out which attacks are the most compelling or the most dangerous. But I've been tracking them very closely, as I always do.
What excites me always about security is how things change. And we're doing these panels now in one form or another for about the last 10 years. Now, each year there's something new, something exciting really here to talk about.
Hey, listen, we are at the midway point of our live stream broadcast today. We are on the floor at RSAC 2023 right here in San Francisco. I'm so excited. I'm having a grand time. We've gone through conversations so far with George Orchilles, James Tarala, Katie Nichols, and in a minute, I'm going to be talking with Eric Johnson. We're going to have Dr. Johannes Ullrich following that, and we're going to close out today talking to Robert M. Lee. So you definitely don't want to miss what's coming up on the back half of this live stream broadcast. I wanted to go ahead and do a quick giveaway for some merch. So if you've been entering or giveaway, you simply have to type hashtag SANS live stream, exactly as you see it on screen right now, into the chat to be entered. And I'm going to do a quick giveaway right now. So let's see who is the second winner of some sansgear.com merch for today. Let's see. Jessica Chambers, you are our winner. Congratulations. Go ahead and shoot us an email over at contentmarketing@sans.org. We'll get your prize to you. Thank you so very much. We're going to kick off with Eric Johnson here in about 10 minutes. Thank you, Brett. In about 10 minutes. So don't go anywhere. Grab a bottle of water, a cup of coffee, and be back here in 10 minutes.
These are the people that I look to, and so many of us look to give us insights on what to expect next, what we should focus on in keeping cyberspace secure.
Like Ed said, when we know something, we want to share it with you. So that's what we're here to do.
I'm going to talk to you about two different new attack techniques that I think everyone needs to be paying attention to. Let's dive right in here.
The first attack, and it's really difficult to figure out which attacks are the most compelling or the most dangerous. But I've been tracking them very closely, as I always do.
What excites me always about security is how things change. And we are doing these panels now in one form or another for about the last 10 years. Now, each year there's something new, something exciting really here to talk about.
Hello and welcome back to our booth at SANS, in the SANS booth at RSAC 2023. I am Steve Nahart, Director of Content Marketing here, and I am so very excited about us doing these live broadcasts from our booth all week long. We're talking with 15 of our SANS experts. I'm so pleased to be joined with Eric Johnson. What's
Hello.
good, brother?
How we doing?
How you doing?
This is awesome.
Yeah, it is.
This is so much fun.
It is amazing. We've been having some really great conversations throughout the day, and I had to have a cloud superstar in the booth with me today to drop some gems. But listen, throughout the day, we're going to be doing giveaways. If you want to take part in our next SANS gear giveaway, go ahead and drop hashtag SANS livestream in the chat right now. But Eric is a SANS senior instructor focused in cloud security and a principal security engineer at Puma Security. Tell me a little bit more about what you do with SANS and beyond SANS.
You know, we do a lot. It's a wide topic area.
Yeah.
So I started out in application security, even, back when SANS had our application security curriculum, and we're building secure coding courses and teaching people how to build defensible applications. And really what happened is this whole DevOps explosion came onto the scene about 10 years ago, which is automate, all the things and move quickly. And the cloud allows you to do that.
Yeah.
So suddenly, instead of just learning how to build an application and secure that, you're now worried about all these kind of continuous integration pipelines that are launching workloads out into the world. And then you have this whole cloud infrastructure with AWS, Azure, and Google that's running it all underneath of it. So these three different disciplines kind of all collided into what I would term, and a lot of folks will say just product security might be the name for it. So with SEC 540, which is one of the first kind of cloud security and DevOps automation course that I was involved in with Frank Kim and Ben Allen, our goal was to teach people how to take an application and deliver it to production securely.
Yes.
With the automation and with the cloud infrastructure pieces underneath of it. And that's a full 5-day boot camp class.
Wow.
And we still don't have enough time to go over everything that we went into in those 5 days. And we had one lab in there that everybody loved it. It's like Wednesday morning, the cloud misconfiguration lab, where we'd purposely put, an S3 bucket public on the internet, or, we build a little role that's over permission to demonstrate some of the things that can go wrong in the cloud.
Wow.
And everybody loved it. And they're like, we want more of that. And we want more of that. And that's how SEC 510 was born, which is public cloud security in AWS, Azure, and Google, which is just a full 5 days of here's all the default settings, here's all the misconfigurations, here's all the things that could go wrong. And so that was the next one. And coming up very quickly here, which technically I think we're a month out. So Sec West is May 15th, right?
About right, yeah.
Sec 549 is the bigger picture, the enterprise architecture view of what in an enterprise, when you've got hundreds of accounts or projects, how do you kind of glue all these pieces together to monitor them, to get visibility and try to segment things for an enterprise that is going to be a little more siloed than a small to medium sized business.
Now, what's your part, Eric, in those courses? Like, did you author these courses?
Everything.
Are you teaching
Yeah,
all these
all of the above.
courses?
So
when do you find time?
It's hard. There's building one from scratch is challenging. I mean, it's a full sprint for months. So we just turned the 549 5-day version in a week ago, and I probably burned 100 hours, maybe averaging like 70 hours a week for like a good month or so, heading into that turn-in, because you've got all these things in your brain. You're trying to get them down on paper. You're trying to get them down into labs. You're trying to make sure that it's just going to be an awesome rock star experience out of the gate for that class, but it's not for everybody.
Right.
It's a ton of work.
With SANS, our hope for all our courses is that, our promise, right, is that you can get back out there the very next day and put what you learn into application.
100%.
Right.
Yes. And we've got, especially in all these courses, now I have great co-authors for all these classes. No individual could do even, I would say, one of those courses on their own.
Wow.
Because the cloud, if you walk down the way to Microsoft or AWS or Google, they're releasing changes to their clouds as we're sitting here.
Yeah.
They're all updating their services and their APIs, and it's just it's a moving target. The entire lab environment is a moving target, and things break all the time.
So, touching on that, are there common concerns that you see coming up pretty regularly, right, with security leadership when it comes to cloud infrastructure?
The security concerns with cloud infrastructure are endless, really.
Yeah.
And a lot of the folks that I work with or teach in these courses are coming out of a traditional security background where they're used to their, network firewalls and their perimeter defenses and, looking at lots of network flow and things like that inside of their on-premises networks. And as you transition to the cloud, it's a whole different story.
Yeah.
You're trying to figure out now all of these things. If you build a network in the cloud, the way that you do it is you're not in the data center, racking and stacking servers anymore. You're making an API call to the cloud provider saying, please build me a network. And they just do it. So you'll hear people say identity is the new perimeter over and over and over again. And it's because the entire management control plane for all of these cloud providers is on the internet. So you have to worry about what user am I? What permissions do I have? If you give me too many permissions, I can delete a network, for example.
Right.
And suddenly we're in big trouble. So those security folks that are relatively new to the cloud, they're just trying to figure this whole thing out. How do you map all the controls that we're used to having in an on-premises network? What do they look like in the cloud? Mm-hmm. And how are they different? And what new risks come into play? The good news is some old risks kind of go away too, because the cloud provider is managing those for you and they're taking care of some of those things on their side of the responsibility model. So there's pros and cons, but it's a puzzle to put together.
So you had a good time yesterday presenting here at RSA.
I did.
What was your talk about? Tell us a little bit more about that.
So first of all, I would highly recommend, this is just a look, if you ever get the chance to do a Monday at 1 p.m. session, that's where it's at. Oh my gosh. Everybody is awake. They're alive. The room was full and they're nodding along and answering questions. On a Thursday, if you're at the tail end of that in the afternoon, people are a little tired, right? Their brains are full. So it was a great session. The title was Destroying Long-Lived Credentials with Workload Identity.
Right. What exactly is that? Workload Identity Federation.
So if you think about how you get access to a system, especially if you're a machine or a service, the way that we did it forever was you go to the cloud provider and you generate this long-lived credential. So think of a super long password to get access to this API. It doesn't change unless a human goes in there and changes it.
Okay.
So there's just password problems there. You have to worry about brute force attacks. You have to worry about the passwords being rotated, being compromised, and you're doing monitoring to make sure that, you know, this user account is not being potentially used by some attacker from somewhere else on the internet.
Right.
So the whole talk was, how can I get rid of those? And there's been a huge push over the last couple of years by the cloud providers to support what we would call workload identity, which is really built on OpenID Connect and JSON Web Tokens, which are now a temporary credential. So instead of that long-lived password that might live for, you know, forever, you've got this token that only lives for 60 minutes, let's just say.
Okay.
And the whole talk that I put together was all the cloud providers support these short-lived temporary credentials. And what I set up for them in this open source repository that's called Nymeria, subtle Game of Thrones reference there in the Puma security repo, is I put all the Terraform that you would need to build this. You know, after they walk away, they can go launch this into their own cloud accounts. And it's a GitHub action, which is cloud number 1, that needs to authenticate to Azure to build a virtual machine. And the virtual machine running in Azure needs to authenticate to Amazon Web Services S3, which is their storage service, and Google Cloud's GCS, which is their storage service.
Okay.
So we've got 3 different authentication points there that in the old world, we create 3 long-lived credentials, and they would live forever to enable this whole system to function. And what I walked them through for an hour was, let's do this by not creating any long-lived credentials.
Okay.
And what we did is we set up identity federation trust between the Azure environment and GitHub, and then the AWS and Google environments to set them up to trust that Azure subscription.
So I caught, you just dropped a whole ton of gems, right?
I know.
So, you know, I got the token. Bring me back to long live. What does that mean?
So long-lived credentials really just refer to that password, that API key that's just never rotated.
Okay.
And the risk is if somebody finds that. So during the demo yesterday, I dumped it out on purpose to a log file.
Okay.
And if your system administrator gets access to that log file, now they've got this password that they shouldn't have.
Right.
And they can use that to kind of pillage this cloud environment forever. So at that point, your incident response folks, you have to hope they're monitoring usage and maybe detecting that credentials being used from an IP address that's not normal. And the temporary workload identity federation concept says, if you found that credential, that token in a log file, chances are it's been 60 minutes since we created it. It's already going to be expired and invalid by the time you would maybe go find that if you're that evil administrator.
So listen, if you're tuning in right now, we have a poll that we're going to throw up. If you want to hop over to slido.com and type the code that's going to pop up on the screen here in a second, or you want to scan the QR code on the screen, we'd love your input on this poll on whether or not your organization uses long-lived credentials to access cloud resources. Let us know your thoughts on that. And while people are taking part in that poll, Eric, wanted to know, you know, in your talk, you suggested replacing the long-lived credentials with these short-lived tokens, as you said, right? Anything else that, you know, we need to be thinking about if we want to kind of move in that direction?
The big prerequisite in order to do all this, you need an identity provider.
Okay.
So that's an OpenID Connect compatible identity provider. And what that means, and this is where you have to do some of the heavy lifting up front potentially, is you might need to build an on-premises identity provider on your own.
Okay.
And use that to create these tokens. And then you can use them to authenticate to all the cloud providers. So that's an option. What a lot of folks will do is they'll say that that's too much work. Right. I don't want to build that. I don't want to maintain that on my own. So they might bring in a vendor that has this. And the cloud providers themselves offer this as a service too.
Okay.
So you could just say, I'm going to use AWS Cognito, or I'm going to use Azure just in general, because Azure Active Directory is an OpenID Connect identity provider. Or I can go use Google Cloud Identity. But there's other vendors, you know, you've got Okta, Auth0, HashiCorp's Vault has an OpenID Connect IDP option inside of it. So that's the big piece that you kind of need to figure out first before you can move over and start to configure all the trust to get access to your cloud services.
You shared some of our courses that you know, we have serving different areas of cloud. Which of those courses kind of speak to some of this?
So there's a little bit of different context,
yeah.
But Sec 510 has a really cool section in it on day 5 where we do some cross-cloud authentication and authorization, and it talks about long-lived creds, and then it also talks about workload identity. Sec 549 also covers that, but it's in a different light. And what Kat Traxler is the lead author for 549. And when Kat and I talked about what do we want to do from an enterprise perspective here? So the big difference is you can configure this in individual accounts across an organization, but then it's hard to manage that.
Right.
Your cloud administrators don't know, you know, where are all of these identity federation configurations at. So in 549, what we did was we said we're going to centralize all of that configuration into one location. Give the cloud security folks one place to look for that.
Okay.
And from there, then you can kind of just jump off into the other target accounts inside of the cloud organization. So you can still enable access to all those, we call them spoke accounts. And you have got the centralized identity hub that all of that configuration lives in, just to make it easier to manage from an enterprise perspective.
I love it. And if you're interested in learning more about SEC 549, hop on over to sans.org/SEC 549, and you can read a little bit more about the course. Tell us, is there anything else about the course that you'd want to share with our audience?
So this is kind of unique. This is the first time I'm going to try this, and the jury's out, right? We don't know. I think people are going to love it. So in SEC 549's lab environment, it is a full enterprise level environment where we federate access in through Azure Active Directory to access AWS and Google and Azure resources.
Okay.
What Kat and I set up is an actual kind of long-lived for the whole week a Ranges IO scoreboard.
Okay.
So all of the lab instructions are inside of Ranges IO, and they're intended to be just challenges that you can get answers to, and you can earn points as you go throughout the entire class. Of course, in a race for the challenge coin that we put together, right? So it's a little bit different from how we've set it up in the other courses, which is a more traditional, just here's the lab and here's a step.
Yeah.
And what we want to do is just kind of gamify the whole thing.
Right.
So I think it's going to be super fun. I think the students will love it, and we'll have that scoreboard just up and running all week, and hopefully we'll give lots and lots of coins out for the winners. But that's something unique that we're going to release on May 15th at Sec West.
That's awesome. So you've already delivered your talk. You're wrapping up here. What else are you getting into while you're here at the show?
Good question. So after this, so we've got our session here. I've got an interview with some folks on the AWS security team this afternoon, just to talk about challenges in, you know, the AWS security world. So kind of more of the same. I'm sure the workload identity concept will probably come up in that discussion.
Yeah.
A couple dinners. I'm heading out. I'm going to meet up with Frank Kim tonight,
That's
one of
awesome.
the Sec 540 co-authors. So
Yes.
he's in the area somewhere. I haven't seen him yet, so I'm excited to catch up with him. It's been a little while. Made it out to the speaker reception last night, caught up with some other folks over there. But
Have you had a chance to walk the floor?
I have, yeah. I walked the whole floor with Chris Ferris yesterday, who's another instructor that we're trying to get ramped up to teach 549. So I'm excited to try to get him
Nice.
up on board and running. And yeah, we went and talked to some vendors. There's tons of API security vendors over here. So
I was going to ask you that, right? Like, so is there anything that's standing out to you, you know, any themes, buzzwords, things that, you know, you didn't think were going to pop out at you?
Nothing shocking.
Okay.
It's the number of new vendors in the spaces has shocked me a little bit, though.
Were you here last year?
Let's see, I was out here in 2020, so
Okay.
it's been a couple years. But there's a lot of API security vendors out here. You like No Name and Salt Security and Traceable AI and all these folks that are trying to solve this API security problem at hand. And,
Right.
and I think we're just scratching the surface on how big of a space that's going to be down the road. Because everybody's moving that direction. They all want to be what Amazon and Microsoft and Google are, where they've got all these APIs out there on the internet, and their customers can use them to get access to data and services. And that's going to be interesting. There'll be a lot of different security discussions going on with that for a long time.
Yeah. Well, Eric, thank you so much, man. It's great having you here in the booth, chatting it up with us. We'll make sure we also hyperlink out to your talk from yesterday.
Awesome.
So anyone who missed it can check that out. But give it up for Eric Johnson.
Thank you all for having me.
Listen, if you're in the live stream and you're just tuning in, please drop a hello in the chat. Let us know where you're tuned in from. We'd love to engage with you throughout our chat. Coming up in just a few minutes, in about 10 minutes, we're going to be having a conversation with Dr. Johannes Ullrich of SANS Technology Institute. And then we'll wrap up our day having a conversation with Robert M. Lee at 1 o'clock. So really excited about that. Definitely stay tuned. We'll grab a cup of coffee or something good to drink and come back and join us here in about 10 minutes. Thank you.
I'm Jeremiah Hanley. I work at the Hershey Company as a security manager. SANS on Demand to me is a way to take a SANS class without feeling like you're under the pressure of an entire fire hose all in 1 week. For me, the benefit of SANS on Demand is that instead of a live course where you're kind of getting the entire course all within a week in a total fire hose, you can kind of take it all at your own pace. Some of the features that I'm drawn to with the on-demand platform are that you can even listen to your class on the go. So if I'm at the gym or I'm going for a run, I can just pull up the mobile app and start listening to a course. I can watch the whole video. I can really get the whole experience completely on the go.
Let's test that. That's much better. Listen, I want to welcome you back. Can we kill that? All right, no more echo. We are streaming live from our booth here at RSAC Conference 2023. We have 2 more conversations to go today. In a minute, we're going to be talking with Dr. Johannes Ullrich and wrapping up our day with Robert M. Lee. But I just wanted to tell you guys real quick, 3 weeks ago, we launched a new media property here at SANS Institute called Wait, Just an InfoSec. It's a weekly broadcast happening every Tuesday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern. And it's a dynamic program with many different segments highlighting different cybersecurity experts, having conversations. Think of the Today Show for cybersecurity. We're going to have dynamic segments, featured guests, and you know, there's so much there. We have had 3 episodes so far. I invite you to go back and look at our episode from last week featuring Frank Kim. Prior to that with Dean Parsons. But definitely want to invite you to join us next Tuesday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern. We're going to be featuring Rob Teeley, who's going to be hosting our upcoming episode on the future of cybersecurity. So join us next Tuesday at 10 a.m. Eastern across our SANS channels on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Twitter. Hello and welcome back. We are live right here in our SANS booth at RSAC Conference 2023. If you're at the conference, we invite you to come over to booth 4416. Come hang out with us. I am so very excited to be having a conversation with Dr. Johannes Ullrich, somebody I have tremendous respect for. He's a SANS fellow, Dean of Research for SANS Technology Institute College. Welcome to our live stream today.
Thanks, Stephen, for having me here, and amazing here at a big conference, really busy. I've seen some great sessions already that were pretty much packed, so hope our keynote tomorrow will also be equally packed.
Yes, absolutely. So listen, I was talking with Ed Scotus last night, and he was mentioning how long you've been part of that keynote.
Yeah, I actually forgot when it all started, kind of. It's sort of like...
So, you know, you're here at RSA. Last year, we were just getting back post-COVID. You know, and this year it feels like it's twice the size of the audience. Are you feeling that energy?
Yes, it's definitely much more energy because last year was still people being cautious and not really sure about what to expect. I think now it's back sort of to the way it used to be, really big or noisy, and not sure how many of you can hear the background noise here. We had some challenges with the audio to get it working well, but it's part of the excitement really here.
Absolutely. Are you looking, is there anything beyond, obviously, and Dr. Ullrich just touched on this, tomorrow you're part of our keynote titled The 5 Most Dangerous New Attack Techniques. That's going to happen tomorrow at 3:55 p.m. in Moscone West, level 1. Make sure that you're checking out that keynote. You don't want to miss it. You want to give up? And I know you're going to tell me no. Is there anything you want to give up about what we might expect to hear?
If you've heard me sort of talk in the past, sort of what I always try to do is look a little bit in the future, but also try to look at threats that are already emerging, that are already there. And I'll talk about a group that is close to my heart, and that's developers who really are producing a lot of the great stuff you're seeing here. So that'll be a little bit of focus of at least my part of the keynote tomorrow.
So I want to shift gears. I would love for you to tell us a little bit about the SANS.edu Research Journal. What is it, and who is it for?
Yeah, so for SANS.edu, I'm the Dean of Research, so I'm basically organizing a lot of the work we're doing with graduate students to produce great research. And one of our focus areas here when we are looking at good research is to do things that are actually applicable, things that you can use that will help you do a better job. The way we work is, of course, it's a college. So as in any college, things get graded. And if you're graded an A in your research paper, the distinction you'll receive is that we'll publish your research. It is published on the SANS.edu website, but every year we sort of combine basically the best of these papers into our research journal. And you can download it. It's downloadable as a PDF. Great stuff in there. It's categorized by the different sort of curriculums that we cover, defensive, offensive, forensics, all of the good things, and management papers as well, I believe. And it's really meant for you to really have this resource available to then draw from as you're trying to solve some of these problems in your own organization.
What kind of research can be found there?
Well, it's, for example, one paper that I liked a lot. I was supervising it, so maybe I'm a little bit partial here. But it's about some of these resume scams. And what basically happens here is that other companies are putting out job ads on your behalf. So you may see a job ad out there that claims to be from your company, but it isn't.
Wow.
And then they're tricking applicants into applying for this. They're stealing their information as part of it. But they're sometimes also just simply stealing money by basically asking them to sort of advance some of the costs, like for laptops and things like this. So this particular student, what she did was to look at how do you defend against a scam like this as a company being impersonated? How do you automate some of the defensive techniques here? So I personally like this paper, but you find a lot of papers like this that are current relevant problems and how you can solve them. So he's going to just copy the approach that some of these papers use to solve these problems.
So I'm going to invite everyone watching to take part in a quick poll that we created here. Feel free to hop over to slido.com and you can type in the code that's showing up on the screen right now, or you can just scan that QR code and it'll bring you right into this question. But our research journal categorizes papers into the following topics. Which section is most interesting to you? Let us know your thoughts on this poll. Dr. Ullrich, while people are engaging in the poll, I wanted to ask, why is the SANS.edu research journal a valuable resource for students and practitioners alike?
I think what distinguishes it from some of the other research and such you may see from other higher ed institutions is that it's very applicable. I see, as for example, you have defensive. There was like a great paper about, on Mac, like you're using a Mac here, when you install some software that's not signed, you have the ability to override this. How can you figure out in your network if users are overriding this, if users are installing software that they're not supposed to install? So all of these sort of relevant hands-on problems, because that's how Macs are usually infected, is by people downloading that fake Adobe Flash update or whatever.
Right.
And so again, that's sort of one of those things that you can see in the research journal.
We're getting some responses. Defensive is getting a couple.
Defensive. I hope defense is going a little bit higher, because forensics, that's what you do if you suck at defensive, kind of. Yeah? So if you do a defensive right, you don't really need the forensic stuff. But ICS, we also had some nice ICS papers there. I believe some of it, some segmentation ideas with network access control, ICS networks. So again, very hands-on, how to do things. But then, because it's grad level research, it's not just how to do it, it's also proving that whatever is proposed here works. You find a lot of blog posts that will tell you how to do X, but do they actually tell you that the technique that they're proposing works? That's part of this here, where we actually prove that.
Wow. So let's shift gears and talk about Internet Storm Center. You're in addition to your role as Dean of Research for SANS.edu, you founded the Internet Storm Center. Tell us a little bit about that history, and the mission. You shared that with me, and I find it so amazing. But share that with our viewers.
Well, there are really two parts that sort of make Internet Storm Center work. One is sort of that human part where people are sending us information in. I think Lance Spitznoff calls it like the human sensor kind of. And then you also have sort of these technical sensors, honeypots. It started all back actually in 1999.
Yes.
That's when it started. Back then, SANS called it incidents.org, and it was meant to sort of help people share information about, remember Y2K?
Yes.
When that sort of was all going on. So that sort of was the initial idea behind it. But what people really found helpful is that information sharing part. We can really learn all from each other. And you hear the motto of RSA this year is better together, kind of, and really
stronger together.
Stronger together. Yeah, that's the motto here this year. And that's really what this is all about. By sharing information, making it easy to share that information. That's really what Internet Storm Center is all about. And so just a little bit of history also. That daily post that you see, we call them diaries, and there are two reasons behind that. One, it is sort of just a small thing, usually that whoever wrote it up, it helped them today, it helped them this week. I today wrote something up about how to use ChatGPT to calculate CVSS scores, for example. That's something that I found helpful earlier this week when I was working on a little problem. But we've also called it diary because back when we started, blogs, the term didn't exist yet. So.
Wow. That's awesome. So we're throwing up another poll on the screen. We invite you to take part in right now. Again, feel free to scan the QR code or hop over to slido.com if you'd like to engage. But which feature of the Internet Storm Center website do you find most useful? Let us know your thoughts there. Dr. Ullrich, why do you think the I have the habit of wanting to say ICS. ISC.
I'll punch you.
Continues to be. Why do you think ISC continues to be so heavily trafficked after all these years?
I think it's staying relevant and current. That's really what it is about.
Yes.
The site may not look very fancy, but its
Highly
content is
valuable.
what matters.
Yes.
It's the content that matters. They are very vendor neutral. Hardly see even a SANS ad on the site.
Yeah.
They added some for SANS Fire, by the way, which is an event that you definitely should attend.
Yes.
Also, for example, the daily podcasts and such. It's one thing I just saw pop up here on the screen.
Yes.
I always get these emails. I'm not sure if you get these emails from like marketing people suggesting guests for your podcast.
Yeah.
And I have to
Every
point
day.
them out. You obviously didn't listen to the podcast because I don't have guests.
That's a classic with solicitation. I get the same thing every day.
So I usually forward those to whoever guest they advertise, kind of. But
listen, you've done I'm a podcaster. You know, as a podcaster, I have so much tremendous and profound respect for you having been able to do a daily show for 14 years.
It's about 14 years. Yeah.
And I mean, thousands of episodes later.
Yeah. Well, keep it simple. That's really it. I don't have sort of a lot of fancy equipment, but over the years, kind of, I improved my equipment a little bit.
Yeah.
You may notice having a fancy microphone makes you feel better. May not make the sound better, but
whatever the equipment, to your point, you've been providing relevant, valuable content in, that's succinct.
It's supposed to make you sound smarter when you come in to work in the morning. That's sort of the motto behind it.
Yeah.
It's these 5 minutes, should fit within pretty much any commute, even these days, if it's just from the bedroom down to the office, kind of.
Yeah.
And gets you ready for the day, kind of. That's really what the podcast's supposed to do.
So let's talk about the diary. What kind of content can visitors find in the ISC diary?
Yeah, so what I said is that it's basically these people we have writing. We call them handlers. The United States handlers. These are volunteers. We have a fairly diverse set of these volunteers. They're globally. We recruit them essentially. They write about things that they find interesting. By having them in different industries with different specialties, you'll find sort of a fairly rich set of problems that they face in their day-to-day work. Like, famously, we have Didier, who authored a lot of the malware analysis tools for Office documents. He's writing about some of the tools that he just improved. He's talking about some malware that he ran into where one of his tools maybe didn't quite do the trick. So, well, he improved it. And he's talking about how you can analyze the same malware yourself and using that improved tool. We had this weekend, I think it was, Manuel. He lives in Colombia, and he used to work for a utility. I think now he works for a bank currently, but they had some issues there with DMARC, email security. So he did a little survey of that within Colombia, what he's seeing there. So that's the breadth we have. I mentioned earlier, and I did something random about ChatGPT. I do a lot of development still for Storm Center and such. So it was a problem I ran into here because we produce sort of these summaries you may have seen whenever Apple releases updates. And the challenge with Apple updates is that they're fairly terse. We do them for Microsoft too, but for Microsoft provides a lot of information like CVSS scores. So today I was just talking about, can you use ChatGPT to calculate a CVSS score for you? And it actually worked pretty well.
Wow.
And what prompts to use for that. So really just, it sounds a little bit random, but I think because these are real problems that all of us face at work, I think that makes it sort of relevant for us. Plus, of course, that we have all the data we get from our sensors to draw from.
I'm seeing a LinkedIn user sharing that they just checked out
ISC, Internet Storm Center,
and they bookmarked it. Yes. Listen, if you're tuning in to the broadcast right now, feel free to drop your questions in the chat. If there's anything that you'd like to ask Dr. Ullrich. Before I jump to this next question, I had the privilege of attending the commencement for this year's class of the college. And it was amazing. I'd love to ask from your perspective as the Dean of Research for the college, what do you see as some of the true benefits to or SANS Technology Institute over someone pursuing a degree in another institution?
Well, I think the big benefit is that it is rooted in actually applying what you learn. Like the SANS promise that anything you learn, you can
apply the next day.
apply the next day or when you get back home to work. That's true for the college as well. You get the certifications, not just a degree. And here, of course, at RSAC just announced how they're revamping some exciting stuff going on there that also affects our grads. Because some people always ask me, should I get a certification or should I get a degree? Well, get both. Get both. That's really what SANS does. We have an amazing student community, in part because they all have jobs. That's also special about us. For example, did you know that just last week, the National Cyber League, which is a competition with I think a couple thousand schools, we ranked again, not just the first time, again, number one with our advanced team. And I think 30% of the top 10 teams were SANS.edu teams.
That's fantastic.
We have amazing students. And
one of whom I'm talking with this Thursday. I'm having a conversation with Melissa Bishoping.
Oh, Melissa Bishop, she's great. So, and some of them we actually also see as SANS instructors now, sort of moving up to the other side of the fence as they're graduating.
That's fantastic.
So that's it's just an amazing group of people. Also, an amazing group of people to be connected to if you're a part of that student body, the alumni groups and such.
Absolutely. So one last question for you. How can threat researchers and other security professionals get involved in the Internet Storm Center?
So the easiest and most fun way to get involved in is set up one of our honeypots. It runs in the virtual machine, which we sort of build around Raspberry Pis, which are sadly a little bit hard to get these days, but that's why we sort of also support virtual machines. And see what's hitting it. Actually, as part of our undergraduate program, we now have an internship where students are setting this up and are writing up some of the attacks they're seeing. Yes, a lot of it, at least to me, kind of is old stuff. But hey, to some of them, that's new, that's exciting, and they do sometimes find something real exciting things that we then again publish on the Internet Storm Center. And I think in the Just InfoSec podcast that you're running, we have actually two of them coming. I linked up two of them. So
Dr. Ullrich is hinting he'll be hosting an episode of Wait Just an InfoSec week from Tuesday on May 9th. So you definitely want to mark your calendar and come check out Wait Just an InfoSec on Tuesday, May 9th at 10 a.m. Eastern.
10 a.m. Eastern, so I better put it in my calendar so I show up.
Yes. Dr. Ullrich, thank you so much. Is there anything else you want to share before we wrap?
No, just participate in the community, whether it's within the Storm Center. If you see something interesting, send us in. We love it if you email us malware. Or you can upload them via our website. Browse around, and participating is also tell me about bugs, tell me about things we should improve. That's also part of the participation here.
Yes. Thank you so much. So listen, for those of you watching, do not go anywhere. We are about 10 minutes away from our last conversation today with Robert M. Lee. You don't want to miss this conversation.
Miss him. He's much more interesting times.
So hang tight. We'll be tuning back in. Before I let you go, we're going to do one more giveaway today. And I'll share an overlay, a card here. All you have to do to enter is type hashtag SANS live stream in the chat right now. When I come back in a few minutes, we're going to do a drawing to see who wins a $40 gift card to sansgear.com.
name is John Hubbard, and I am a senior instructor here for the SANS Institute and author of several of the SOC course classes here. The courses I've authored for SANS are SEC 450, which is Blue Team Fundamentals, Security Operations and Analysis, and Management 551, which is Building and Leading Security Operations Centers. 2 courses all focused around building a solid, secure security operations team for an organization of any size. What makes me qualified to teach these courses is I've lived this job. I came up all the way through a security operations center, from being a tier 1 analyst all the way through being the manager of that SOC. And I've lived through all these problems. I've experienced the struggles. I've found the solutions to a lot of the issues that nearly everyone across the globe is going to have a problem with. And so I tried to write those things into my courses. And whether you're a technical person or a manager, I've tried to pull best practice from all across the industry and cram that into one comprehensive 6-day training that has all the essentials for whatever you need to know in relation to security operations.
I think 504 is a really good class is because it's so broad. So SANS has a lot of classes that specialize in different topics like wireless, like web applications, exploitation, and so on. But this class gives you a solid understanding of so many fundamental pieces of the security landscape. It doesn't delve into all the details, but it gives you like this baseline of knowledge that enables you to go deeper when you need to. Also, for our first day of the 504 class, we have an in-depth understanding of the incident response process, with really a good enabler for personnel today to solve incidents in a quality and predictable manner, like quality-rich and predictable manner. I love teaching 504 because it's not just isolated within one certain topic. I cover a bit of wireless, I cover a bit of buffer overflows, I cover a bit of web application attacks, which is my favorite. So I get to teach a whole lot of different things, and I get to share a lot of my personal stories within all of those different things. And yeah, that turns into a good, fun, and engaging class to teach. Lots of stories, lots of technology to go through, and it's how I like it. The 504 class is like a good fundamental class for not beginners per se, but more technical staff. You have a bit of technical knowledge. You want to have a good understanding of how attack techniques work, how incident response can be done in a most effective way, and how to basically understand technology. This class is this perfect segue into other more advanced classes. So key takeaways would be, you would have a good understanding of the incident response process. Really important. You have to have a plan when dealing with incidents. If you show up on site or in an incident response case without a plan, the building is on fire, a virtual fire. You need to have a plan. And I will help you, and this class will help you to build that plan and get a solid understanding of what you need to do. And then we delve into different types of incidents, different types of techniques and exploits and so on, so you can fill those technology gaps where you're missing knowledge, so you can have a better understanding of how attackers and adversaries would break into your networks.
We started doing cloud stuff quite a while ago just because of the availability. We didn't have to order more hardware. We didn't have to order, if we just wanted to stand up and test a machine, we'd stand it up. So we actually started using it for ranges, just to be able to play and hack and find things. We found out, kind of like I did when I was a developer and I became security, I figured out that, you know, as a developer, I made a pretty good security guy because I wrote some really bad code for a long time. And it was the same way with the cloud security stuff. I stood up a bunch of stuff and it worked, but when I look at it now, we had wide open ports and wide open things to the internet, and it was fine. So for me, it was just getting in and playing with things and then feeling that this is not good, I better figure something else out.
I'm Heather Mahalik. I am the DFIR curriculum lead here at SANS. I'm also a SANS author for Forensics 585, the Advanced Smartphone Forensics class.
Hello and welcome back. We are in our last conversation of today. We are live on the floor at RSAC Conference 2023. I am excited to have this conversation with Robert M. Lee. He's a SANS senior instructor, globally recognized ICS security expert. Welcome to the booth, man.
Yeah, thanks, man. Thanks for having me.
Good to finally meet you in real life.
In person, yeah. That's the thing with SANS, right?
That's
We
dope.
all work
I
together
feel like
and
I
then
know you.
never in person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How you liking RSA so far?
I'm always a big fan of RSA, actually, and have been for years. I think there's like a lot of people that are like, oh, RSA, blah, and like, dude, like it's where everyone is. There's good conversations.
Yes.
Like, of course, the focus is the trade show, not the talks, but it's absolutely good just to connect with everybody. It's like a high school reunion in some ways. So
Have you had a chance to walk the floor?
Yeah, yep. Definitely been walking around and meeting folks, and nice to be over here at the SANS booth and see like a lot of my old students and stuff. So it's fun.
Anything jumping out at you that you weren't expecting?
No, it's still all the vendor marketing stuff still there. You know, AI and blockchain and NFTs, and we'll save the world. I'm like, all right, man, whatever. So no, there's still that stupid stuff. But for the rest of it, there's like some really good companies and really good things going on. And again, it's just nice to see everybody.
Absolutely. So yesterday you delivered a presentation, the Industrial Cyber Threat Landscape Year in Review. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So basically the talk was based on our year in review report. So we always publish once a year this free report on kind of like all of our insights about threats, vulnerabilities, and assessments that we do out in the industrial community. And why I think it's actually important, why I like it, is when I started in this field, everything was anecdotal. Like there was no like, here's the data, here's the evidence, here's what it was all like. I know a guy who knew a guy that saw an attack. You know, it was like, okay, dude, whatever. And so that led to a lot of IT security controls getting placed into these operations environments that were not done to reduce risk. It was, this can be safely applied, not that it should be applied. It was like, this can be there without breaking it, not this is actually reducing risk. And so the year in review allows us to just take a step back from all the anecdotal crap and say, here's what we're actually seeing. Here's the ground truth reality of what threats are doing. And I think that helps people really get to like what controls they want to do. And it blends in nicely with the paper Tim Conway and I published at the SANS Institute about a couple months ago, which was the 5 critical controls for ICS security. So instead of do all these things and think about, 100 things you have to do, here's like the 5 you really got to go do. And so that paper, combined with the insights that come out of the presentation yesterday, puts a real nice roadmap for folks on security controls that are validated, valuable, and have a good possibility to return on investment.
What's the reception been to the talk?
The talk, it was packed room. Everyone was super cool. Like, I think that's one of the good things about being in the industrial community anyways, is it is a community.
Yeah.
Like, it's a lot of support from people. So yeah, it was good.
Early and often, I'm going to plug the ICS Summit.
Yeah, please.
What's happening next week?
So SANS ICS Summit's next week. It's my favorite conference of the year, tied. One of my 2 favorite conferences of the year. And Tim Conway and I are co-chairs, and so we build out the agenda and work with folks. But it is the largest gathering of the practitioners from asset owners and operators. So there's other ICS conferences that are bigger, but we keep it focused on, for the most part, asset owners and operators, who's actually out in the field doing the work.
Yeah.
And so not only is it kind of that reunion kind of feel every year, but it's really, really practical content, not pitches and things like that. And it's at Disney World. So like, how can you be upset being at Disney World? Like every year we do it. And yeah, there'll be like bar nights and things like that, but SANS is really family friendly. And so we have one night that's just for the kids and stuff with like milkshake stations and all that. So it's like one of those conferences you can take your families to if you have a family that you want to bring.
Important
I guess I should say
piece,
if you have
right?
a family you
bring
want
your own
to bring.
kid.
Yeah. So you can BYOK if you want. And it's just a good time. It's also, it's like one of the things that SANS does that's actually like super price affordable. Like real quick to hit on that awkward elephant. Like the summit, I think, is like $600 or $700 or something. And the Disney Contemporary Hotel that we stay at is $800 a night. But because of SANS, it's $300 and something a night.
Wow.
And you can extend it after the conference.
That's
so
nice.
it's like, it
makes
pays
sense.
for itself if you just
absolutely.
want to go have a Disney vacation. It's super cool. Yeah.
That's really awesome. So as an expert in the OT ICS space, what do you think is most misunderstood about this area of security?
I think a lot of people approach those environments and go, look, they're legacy and unpatched and vulnerable and whatever. And that's just bias. Like, people are bringing their IT security bias into OT. So the most misunderstood thing, in my opinion, is you got to learn the mission of that site. You got to learn, like, what are they trying to accomplish? What threats do they face? Then what security controls make sense, not just bringing copy and pasting IT security crap in there. And then the other thing I would say that's just really interesting is it's truly an executive board and like presidential level topic, in the sense that for years, executives have been investing in cybersecurity at the companies, not knowing that like 98% of that's been going to the website, not the gas turbine control system. You know what I mean? Like so no CEO or CFO is confused about where they generate revenue, and no government is confused about what contributes to national security. So you are seeing a dialogue happen at a truly executive level on OT security that even normal IT cybersecurity doesn't get.
While we're talking, I'm going to have our team throw up a poll real quick on, and if you're tuning in, feel free to jump into this poll. You can hop over to slido.com, tap in via the code on the screen or scan the QR code. We'd love your input on.
Hey, Elizabeth. I don't know. There's like people chatting towards me. So.
Yeah, and drop us a hello if you're watching us live. Let us know where you're tuning in from. We've been talking with people all across the globe throughout the day, but we'd love your input on what you perceive to be the most significant threat today in OT ICS environments. So share your thoughts there. Let's see, we have, I'm gonna switch gears. About a month ago, you were called to the U.S. Senate to give a testimony about cybersecurity vulnerabilities. Tell us a little bit about that experience and how you became actively involved.
Yeah,
this isn't your first time, right?
No.
You did this 5 years ago?
Yeah. So I testified in 2018 in the same committee, then testified to the House, I think last year, and then got called back to testify to the Energy Committee in the Senate again, like last month. And I think, one, I always fills me with pride. I hate to be like all apple pie and American flags and eagles in the background all the time, but like testifying to the people's representatives, you got to have a little bit of pride in doing that. And I think a lot of people think about Congress and like the Democrat, Republican, and then all the non-bipartisanship that can take place, or all the partisanship that can take place. But like that's a lot in the media. And I'm not saying the media is making it worse. I'm saying they play to the media. In person, like they're really bipartisan on a lot of topics.
Yeah.
Energy security being one of them, and cybersecurity being one of them. They may disagree with like how to do it, but they agree with like here's why we care and what we're focused on. So you'll see people that on news channels are fighting with each other, and in person they're laughing and joking in those committees. Like it makes you proud, right?
Yeah.
I wish more Americans could see how they operate when the cameras are off, because you do take a little bit of pride with it. And yeah, they're just heavily concerned about OT security, like the critical part of critical infrastructure, national security requirements. And this time I felt like I was a little bit more direct. The first time I was like, okay, sir, ma'am, a little bit polished. It's not like, no, that's stupid. No, that was not going to work. I was just a little bit straightforward. And they liked it, and we talked afterwards. And so that was,
I was curious about that. Like, so what happens after you deliver that testimony?
Yeah, so there's like follow-on questions and conversations and things. Because again, like congressmen don't want to do testimonies just for like news bites. Like that's not what they're doing. They are going to write legislation. They're going to make a policy, and they're holding committees on things that they and their staff are going to focus on. And so it's very genuine, the questions they ask. I mean, every now and then you'll get one that's for like the media, but like it's very genuine. And after they are working on policy, and so there's follow-ups and so forth. And when both Republicans and Democrats come up to me afterwards, like, hey man, thanks, that was wonderful, so glad you did that. Like that's good feedback. And again, I think a lot of times I get like these super polished answers, and like you don't actually know what the person wants. So the fact that I was just like, hey, here's what it is.
Right.
The feedback I got was they very much appreciated it.
That's awesome. So, I mean, is that something that do you feel intimidated in the moment when you're doing that?
No. I think I usually joke with people that no one's ever had to wonder my opinion. I feel like I'm pretty candid and direct. And so if you are giving your genuine opinion on subjects that you actually have knowledge on, there's nothing to be intimidated by. If you are giving an opinion that's not yours and your court comms and media folks wrote it, you're probably going to be intimidated. Or if you're talking on areas outside your expertise, like they started talking about some things, and in the testimony, I was like, hey, that's not actually my focus area. There's nothing wrong with saying that, but if you're like, you're pretending, you should be really nervous because you're getting called out on a national stage.
100%.
But if you're just like, I treat it the same way that I treat my SANS classes. Yes, I know they're senators. Yes, it's an honor to be there, blah, 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 blah. But they're smart people trying to learn and make decisions. It's the same in being in the classroom setting. And so I think SANS has prepared me well to just not care about that and just try to be genuine. So it was fun.
That's awesome. Want to give a plug to your SANS classes?
Yeah, of course. I want to do that. So for those out there that are unfamiliar with it, I've got two courses I authored at SANS. One is the ICS 515, which is like network monitoring, visibility, like incident response in industrial environments. And the other one is Forensics 578, which is the cyber threat intelligence course. The CTI course is the one that's like super popular because like pretty much anybody should take it in the security industry because it's really a class about thinking about how to think.
Yep.
And so it's just applicable even if you're not in CTI. The ICS course, you should only take if you're doing security operations, IR, that kind of stuff in industrial environments.
Sidekick here earlier talking.
Yeah.
Katie was here with us
I
earlier
love
today.
Katie. Yeah, Katie's one of our 578 instructors, and she's phenomenal.
Yeah,
absolutely phenomenal.
Good stuff, man. Well, listen, I appreciate you coming, rocking with me for a little bit, chatting it up.
Of course.
Hope that all goes well for the rest of the time you're here, and good luck with the ICS Summit.
Yeah, thanks. And for those people that haven't signed up for the ICS Summit, I will note it's the virtual portion you can still sign up for. You're not going to get all the talks, like it's free, so we try to protect some material is kind of sensitive, and so we want to keep it there. But if you're remote and virtual, you can sign up for free for some of the talks, and I would hit the keynotes. For security reasons, we can't say who the day 2 keynote is. But I would tell you the talk title that's public is Defending Critical Infrastructure in a War. So it shouldn't be all that surprising of like what it's going to be about.
Yeah.
But we just, for OPSEC purposes, we're not going to get into right now. You don't want to miss that one.
Yes.
You can skip my talk, skip Tim's talk, all these other talks.
Don't skip those talks.
Do not want to skip the one that you can get virtually. Like you should sign up for it. It's the second day keynote. It is going to be very, 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 very good, and something that you will never see anywhere else. It's a Tim Conway, Rob Lee special.
Love that. Well, thank you so much, man. I appreciate you rocking with us. Listen, if you've been here all day, thank you very much. Definitely want to tune back in tomorrow. We're going to throw up a card for our talks tomorrow, just to remind you of who we'll be having. I believe we start tomorrow with Heather Mahalik, followed by Rob T. Lee.
The other one.
We're gonna have
Remember, Rob Lee. I'm version 2. I'm the software upgrade. You remind him of that, okay? Like he's the OG, but you know, legacy and outdated.
That's it.
And then hey Jose.
We have Chris LG talking with Sean Atkins, Jason Jordan, Josh Lemon, and Megan Roddy close out our day tomorrow. So you don't want to miss all the live streams that we have coming your way tomorrow. Hang tight for just a few more minutes. I'm going to do a giveaway, one more giveaway today in about 2 minutes. So hang tight.
These are the people that I look to, and so many of us look to give us insights on what to expect next, what we should focus on in keeping cyberspace secure.
Like Ed said, when we know something, we want to share it with you. So that's what we're here to do.
I'm going to talk to you about 2 different new attack techniques that I think everyone needs to be paying attention to. Let's dive right in here.
The first attack, and it's really difficult to figure out which attacks are the most compelling or the most dangerous. But I've been tracking them very closely, as I always do.
What excites me always about security is how things change. And we're doing these panels now in one form or another for about the last 10 years. Now, each year there's something new, something exciting really here to talk about.
Hey, how much fun was today? I mean, you know, we started the day with James Tarala. We spoke to George Orchilles, Katie Nichols, Eric Johnson, Dr. Johannes Ullrich, and just wrapped the day with Robert M. Lee. Listen, I had such a pleasure having all these conversations, and we're not done yet. We have some more amazing conversations coming to you tomorrow, right here from our booth, 4416 here at RSAC Conference 2023. You do not want to miss our open tomorrow. Happens at 10:30 a.m. Pacific. We're talking with Heather Mahalik, followed by Rob T. Lee. We're going to have a conversation between Chris LG and Sean Atkins, Jason Jordan, and then we'll wrap up our day with a conversation between Josh Lemon and Megan Roddy. I am so very excited about this lineup of conversations for our Wednesday here at RSA. Thank you so much for tuning in. Before you go, if you're still here, I want to do one more giveaway. So let's give away one more gift card for $40 to our sansgear.com store. And who's it going to be? We have a winner, Velocet DeLarge on YouTube. Congratulations, you are our winner. Go ahead and shoot us an email to contentmarketing@sans.org. Make sure to get you your gift card. Thank you so very much for tuning in today. I'll see you tomorrow, Wednesday, April 2020. Tomorrow's the 25th or 26th? Tomorrow is April 26th at 10 a.m., 10:30 a.m. Pacific. Thank you so much for tuning in.